Picture this scenario. A software engineer earning six figures checks their bank account on payday and feels that familiar wave of excitement. The direct deposit notification glows on their phone screen showing $5,000. Yet somehow, 3 weeks later, they're calculating whether they can afford groceries until the next paycheck arrives. This isn't a story about someone struggling with minimum wage. This is about the invisible trap that catches people earning what should be life-changing money. You see someone driving a luxury car through downtown traffic, wearing designer clothes, living in a beautiful apartment. From the outside, their life screams success. But behind closed doors, they're living paycheck to paycheck, just like someone earning a third of their salary. The difference isn't their income level. The difference lies in something far more subtle and far more dangerous. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology and systems that keep people broke, regardless of how much money flows through their hands. This isn't about shaming anyone or pointing fingers. This is about understanding the invisible forces that work against us, and why good intentions alone aren't enough to build lasting wealth. Let me start with a fundamental truth that might surprise you. Income level has almost nothing to do with financial stability. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but stick with me here. Research shows that people earning $30,000 can have more financial security than people earning $300,000. The determining factor isn't how much you make. It's what happens to that money between the moment it hits your account and the moment it disappears. Think about the last time you got a raise or a bonus. What happened next? Most people experience what economists call lifestyle inflation. But the psychological process is far more complex than that simple term suggests. When your income increases, your brain doesn't just adjust your spending. It fundamentally rewrites your relationship with money and your perception of what you deserve. Here's how it works in real time. You get promoted and suddenly your old car feels inadequate. Not because it stopped working, but because your identity shifted. You're now someone who earns this amount. And people who earn this amount drive cars like this, live in places like this, wear clothes like this. Your brain creates a new baseline for normal, and everything below that baseline feels like deprivation. But here's the trap. Your expenses don't just increase gradually. They jump in chunks. You upgrade your apartment, which means higher rent, higher utilities, higher insurance. You buy a better car, which means higher payments, higher insurance, higher maintenance costs. You shop at better stores, eat at better restaurants, take better vacations. Each individual decision feels reasonable, even necessary. But collectively, they create a new fixed cost structure that consumes your entire income increase and often more. The cruel irony is that this process can make you feel poorer than before your raise. Why? Because you're now committed to expenses that seemed optional when you were earning less, but feel mandatory at your new income level. You've traded flexibility for status, and that trade often happens unconsciously. Let's examine what happens in the days and weeks after payday. For most people, there's a predictable pattern. The money arrives and there's this brief moment of relief, maybe even abundance. Bills get paid automatically. There might be some shopping, some dining out, some small luxuries that feel justified after working hard all month. But then something interesting happens around day 10 or 12. The spending continues at the same pace, but the psychological relationship to that spending changes. What felt abundant now feels finite. What felt deserved now feels slightly reckless. But the habits are already in motion. The restaurants have been chosen, the subscriptions are running, the social commitments are made. The money keeps flowing out at the same rate, but now there's an undercurrent of anxiety instead of joy. By week 3, many people are doing mental calculations. How much is left? What expenses are coming? Can I afford this dinner out? Should I skip the coffee tomorrow? The same person who felt wealthy 2 weeks ago now feels stretched thin. And they're earning the exact same salary they celebrated just 20 days earlier. This cycle reveals something profound about human psychology. We don't experience money in absolute terms. We experience it relative to our recent past and our current expectations. A person who earned $50,000 last year and earns $60,000 this year might feel less wealthy than someone who earned $40,000 last year and earns $50,000 this year, even though they're objectively better off. But income and lifestyle inflation are just part of the story. The deeper issue is emotional spending. And this is where things get really interesting from a psychological perspective. Most people think they're rational decision makers when it comes to money. They believe they buy things because they need them. or because they've carefully evaluated the value. But neuroscience tells us a very different story. Every purchase decision gets filtered through our emotional state in that moment. Had a stressful day at work? Your brain interprets shopping as a form of stress relief. Feeling successful after a big meeting? Your brain interprets spending as a way to celebrate and reinforce that success. Feeling lonely on a Friday night? Your brain interprets that expensive dinner or those new clothes as an investment in your social life and self-worth. The problem isn't that emotions influence our spending. The problem is that we don't recognize when it's happening. We create logical stories to justify emotional decisions. We tell ourselves we need the expensive coffee because we're tired and have to be productive. We need the designer clothes because they make us more confident at work. We need the premium subscription service because it saves time, and time is money. These stories aren't lies exactly, but they're not the whole truth either. The truth is that spending money triggers the release of dopamine in our brains, the same neurotransmitter involved in addiction. In the short term, buying something can literally make us feel better. But like any dopamine-driven behavior, we need bigger and more frequent purchases to achieve the same emotional effect over time. This creates what I call the spending treadmill. You start buying small things to manage stress or reward yourself. Over time, those small purchases lose their emotional impact, so you need bigger purchases. But bigger purchases create financial stress, which creates more emotional pressure, which drives more spending. You end up running faster and faster just to stay in the same emotional place. Now let's talk about systems, or rather, the lack of systems. This might be the most critical factor in why people stay broke regardless of their income. Most people operate their financial lives like they're improvising a jazz solo every single day. They make decisions in the moment based on how they feel, what they want, and what seems affordable right now. But wealthy people, regardless of their income level, operate from systems. They have predetermined rules about how money flows through their lives. They decide on Sunday what they'll spend on Monday. They set limits before they need to use them. They create friction between the impulse to buy something and the ability to actually buy it. Here's a simple example that illustrates the power of systems. Two people earn exactly the same salary. Person A checks their bank balance when they want to buy something and decides in the moment whether they can afford it. Person B automatically transfers 20% of every paycheck into savings before they ever see it, budgets specific amounts for different categories of spending, and only makes purchases that fit within those predetermined limits. Person B isn't more disciplined or morally superior. They're just operating from a system that makes good financial decisions automatic instead of relying on willpower in the moment. And here's the key insight. Willpower is a finite resource. You can't rely on it to make good decisions every single day, especially when you're tired, stressed, or emotional. The most successful financial systems work like water flowing downhill. They use the natural path of least resistance to create positive outcomes. Automatic savings transfers, automatic bill payments, automatic investment contributions. The money moves in beneficial directions without requiring daily decisions or constant discipline. But most people resist creating these systems because they feel restrictive. They want the freedom to make decisions in the moment. They want to be able to buy what they want when they want it. What they don't realize is that this apparent freedom is actually a prison. Without systems, you're enslaved to your impulses, your emotions, and your momentary desires. With systems, you're free to enjoy the outcomes of good decisions that you made when you were thinking clearly. Let's pause for a moment and consider the role that environment plays in all of this. Your financial behavior isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening in a culture that profits from your impulses, and a social media environment that constantly shows you things you don't have. Every day, you're exposed to hundreds of micro-advertisements designed by teams of psychologists to trigger spending impulses. The restaurant app on your phone knows exactly when you're likely to be hungry and sends notifications accordingly. The clothing website tracks your browsing patterns and shows you items similar to what you looked at, creating artificial scarcity with limited time offers. The social media algorithm feeds you content from people who appear to be living better lives with better things. This isn't accidental. These are sophisticated systems designed to separate you from your money by bypassing your rational decision-making processes. They work by creating artificial urgency, social comparison, and emotional association between products and feelings you want to have. The solution isn't to become a hermit or reject all technology. The solution is to recognize these influences and create counter-systems that work in your favor. Unsubscribe from retailer email lists. Delete shopping apps from your phone. Curate your social media feeds to reduce exposure to lifestyle content that makes you feel inadequate. Set up waiting periods before major purchases. Now, here's where this gets really interesting from a psychological perspective. The same mental patterns that keep people broke also prevent them from recognizing that they're broke. It's a form of financial cognitive dissonance. People create stories that protect their self-image while explaining away their financial struggles. They tell themselves they're just going through a temporary rough patch, that next month will be different, that they just had some unexpected expenses this month, that they're actually doing pretty well compared to their friends, that they're investing in experiences and relationships, which is more important than saving money. These stories serve an important psychological function. They protect self-esteem and reduce anxiety in the short term. But they also prevent people from making the changes necessary to actually improve their financial situation. You can't solve a problem that you don't acknowledge exists. Breaking this cycle requires a kind of radical honesty that can be uncomfortable. It means looking at your bank statements and credit card bills without the stories and justifications. It means calculating how much money actually flows through your hands versus how much you have to show for it. It means acknowledging that your current approach isn't working, even if you can explain why it makes sense. This brings us to one of the most important insights in personal finance. Your financial outcomes are not primarily determined by your income, your education, your intelligence, or even your discipline. They're determined by your systems and your relationship with money itself. People who build wealth think about money differently than people who stay broke. They see money as a tool for creating future options, rather than as a resource for solving current problems or fulfilling current desires. They prioritize financial flexibility over lifestyle upgrades. They value having money more than they value spending money. This shift in perspective is profound because it changes every financial decision. Instead of asking whether you can afford something, you ask whether buying it moves you closer to or further from your long-term goals. Instead of spending extra income, you invest it. Instead of upgrading your lifestyle when your income increases, you upgrade your savings rate. But here's the thing that most personal finance advice gets wrong. You can't just decide to think about money differently. Your relationship with money was formed by decades of experiences, cultural messages, family patterns, and emotional associations. Changing it requires more than just learning new information or setting new goals. It requires rewiring the neural pathways that automatically associate spending with pleasure, saving with deprivation, and financial success with lifestyle status symbols. This rewiring happens through repetition and practice, not through motivation and willpower. The most effective approach is to start with small systems that feel manageable and gradually expand them as they become habits. Automatically save $50 per month before you try to save $500. Track your spending for one category before you try to budget everything. Build the neural pathways for financial discipline with low-stakes decisions before you apply those same patterns to high-stakes situations. Remember, every wealthy person you admire started somewhere. They weren't born with superior financial knowledge or unshakable discipline. They learned to create systems that worked with their psychology instead of against it. They learned to make good financial decisions automatic instead of optional. The path out of the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle isn't about earning more money, although that can help. It's about creating a different relationship with the money you already have. It's about building systems that serve your long-term interests instead of your short-term impulses. It's about recognizing that true financial freedom comes from having money, not from spending money. Your income doesn't determine your financial future. Your systems do. And those systems are entirely within your control, regardless of how much money you make right now. The question isn't whether you can afford to change your financial habits. The question is whether you can afford not to.